Welcome to the Soul of Medicine. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Soul of Medicine podcast. This week, we have my amazing BFF, Alysa Osvog on. Welcome. Hi. So good to see you. So glad to finally get you on this situation. All right. Well, you have lots of goodies we're going to talk about today, but I want to introduce you to our audience so they get to know you and all your amazingness. So Alysa is a thought leader in holistic recovery. She leads classes, retreats, and trainings in somatic integration, yoga, creative expression, writing, and breath work. She's a certified yoga therapist and Gateless Writing teacher with over a decade of professional experience working primarily in the therapeutic setting. Alysa believes little habits that spark the soul are key to sustainable recovery. Yay, welcome.
Yay!
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, Rob.
Hello.
So good to see you
Welcome.
both.
Thanks for being here. So how should we start this conversation?
Well, I like to start every group, every meeting, every important conversation, every day with meditation. So if you want to just start by making yourself cozy, get comfortable, and it doesn't have to be some Zen style statue meditation. Just give yourself an opportunity to let go of any gripping, any holding on. Take a moment to sit up nice and tall and exhale, drop the shoulders away from the ears. Inhale, broaden across the chest. And exhale, root down a little deeper into the support below. And not only feel that physical point of contact between you, the chair, the floor, the building, but really give yourself permission to rest in the support of gravity, something we can always count on. We can always trust gravity, and we can always find something to be grateful for. So go ahead and shift your awareness to one thing. It could be a tiny little thing. It could be a great big thing. But just something that brings you a little warmth right around the heart space, maybe even a smile without using cheek muscle. And from that place of gratitude, take a deep breath in. And deep breath out. And deep breath in. And let it go. Okay, now we're ready.
Oh, that was so lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
I love that you can always trust gravity. I never really heard that way. That's really cool.
Really?
Thank you.
You know, it helps. And I believe that there really are so many other things going on beyond what we can see in a tiny, tiny little part of these human bodies. And then our human attachment to what that all means. And if we can just pause and be like, okay, gravity's holding me in place. I can trust that. Think of something we're grateful for. There we go. And then we're anchored. And we have a navigation that we can look in different directions without falling off kilter.
That's so beautiful. For me, it was when you anchored gratitude in there, and I had this image of being grateful for meeting you. I think it's been almost a decade. Has it been a decade since we've known each other? Probably over. And so you were working in this yoga studio in Southern California. I walked in and you were just so lovely, and we just connected and hit it off, and we've been friends ever since. So
I'm so grateful for our friendship, and just that, you know, when you meet somebody and you just click. And that's where I really value the fact that we've never lived in the same town. We've continued to meet one another on this path in different stages of life, different places on the planet. And it's really cool to have that growth in friendship.
Well, the beautiful thing about you too is that I love watching you just get really solid in your work, and you practice what you preach, you embody what you teach as well, which is so lovely, and that just is easy to be friends with something like that. I'm so grateful. Yeah.
I feel the same. And just to piggyback on that, yes, I practice what I preach in the sense that it makes my life more fun. I start each group, each meeting, each speaking event, whatever, with meditation because it makes my job easier. If I'm going into a therapeutic setting where they have been getting out some really heavy issues, and then I walk into that room and I'm expecting them to follow what I'm guiding, it's going to be really chaotic. And so if I can give them an opportunity to just kind of use a different tool, open up with a key to a different portal that has nothing to do with what they were in before. And it is not that I'm telling them exactly where to go. They're the ones leading themselves in a different way. And so that's what I like to do, just even with, friendship, is you do you. I love that you do you. And when we can come together and kind of match in a lot of the things that we're both doing, that's fun for me. And if there's not a match at a different, phase of life or something that we're excited about, that's okay. We don't have to force it, And I think that's something that I really infuse in my teaching style, be it yoga, writing, anywhere. It's just, this is your practice. I'm a guide. I'm going to offer a few little navigations here and there, but take ownership of your practice and enjoy it.
Well, I think that's what the cool thing about you is that you have this sort of grounded spirituality. You just have it really, all that, we are in the yoga world and meditators and we do all this, spiritual stuff. There is a grounded quality, which I think is so refreshing. And I think that's needed, right, to be able to navigate that world and then this density of this world. And I find it really interesting that you're using this work in recovery. And so if we want to talk in chakra terms, we're floating up here in seventh chakra, but we're really dealing with first chakra stuff, which is, belonging and trauma and all the basic essential needs that may not have been met. So could you talk about, maybe your personal journey that led you to becoming a yoga therapist, and then writing? I know writing is such a big part of, this might be, this could take the whole podcast, which is fine. I would love that, your journey. I've known your journey for a while, but could you lead us down that road?
It's so exciting to look at it through different lenses. And so I'm going to kind of shift my own little verbiage into hopefully explaining some of my story in a way that listeners are going to relate to. I grew up as a really active kid. I was in Colorado with two amazing parents, an upper middle class family, had all my needs met, and yet traipsed down this little warpath of addiction in the way that it just started fun. I was smoking pot with the boys. I could drink more than everyone else. I could party for days and still be standing until it wasn't fun anymore, until it all stopped working. And I didn't realize after a few decades of being numb where I was, who I was. And I think when I took away the substances that enabled me to act like a human being, I recognized that I was just a shell of a human being. There wasn't much going on inside here. And when I began to kind of dive into those layers of trauma, particularly small t trauma, where there was no major thing in my childhood that I could be like, that's why. It was just everything was always fine and perfect and lovely. And if it wasn't acknowledged. It wasn't seen. I developed that invisible child coping strategy of just always pleasing and performing to the point that I could play any role you wanted me to play. And yet I wasn't connected to what I was actually doing. So it was a really long journey to begin to discover what makes me tick. Where am I alive here? Particularly without the substances, because those are what I thought I needed to exist. So obviously meditation is just, you meet yourself. And I'll actually share one more little story how I met meditation in a treatment center. It was my 4th treatment center. I was almost 30. I was very, very angry, very, very resistant. I felt talked out, wasn't working, hopeless, helpless. And I was trying to mastermind my way out of the situation. I'm like, okay, how can I steal a phone to find a number of that guy with a private jet that can get me out? And I was sitting outside in this rocking chair with like a gnome Hallmark fountain and this like wind chime angel thing that I wanted to like break in a bazillion pieces. And I just started rocking. And I remember it was like the tears and the chills now, even recalling it, of recognizing the fact that I had nothing. I had no one to talk. I had nothing to go do or be. And yet this overwhelming warmth and peace came over me in the fact that I'm not alone. I can do this. And I just sat by myself for a while. And then I did that every single morning. It was the only time that I could just be quiet and hear nothing. And I had no idea what I was doing or why I was doing it. I just didn't want to hear anybody. And so within that silence that I was able to cultivate a real connection with what's going on in here. And it's okay. I gave myself that permission to have thoughts and feelings that other people might not approve of. That's okay. And really surrender to the process of a life worth living that's not necessarily all about me and making me feel better and not be in pain, but it's not about me as much as thy will. Like, how can I show up to the best of my ability to be part of this oneness that we all have as humans? So that's my quick little synopsis story there.
Well, it sounded like there was this moment where, and I think this happens quite often with people, that you come to this point of like, I don't know if it's hitting the wall or the lowest of the low, or that feeling of I am alone, which is actually the story that actual driver of the nervous system, or the fear of being alone, and that you're in it and you're feeling it. And it's like, whoa, I'm still here. This didn't kill me. I can be with this. And then you can kind of see the rise out of that, right? So is that what you encounter a lot with people in your work? You probably see this on a daily basis. Is that sort of that moment that you look for or you recognize and mirror back for them?
Yeah, I think there's a moment, but I also believe in creating these moments for ourselves to remember. It doesn't have to be that pinnacle. Yes, that was it. That was like the little gateway or the taste of what it could be. And then as we continue practicing what that feels like and making it our own, I think that's the thing that I see the most with people is the resistance of, well, I can't meditate or I don't do that. And a lot of that is very valid, especially with really acute, intense feelings, trauma, symptoms that are very distracting. Sitting still and closing eyes can be terrifying. And it's so not recommended. So we make it personal. We kind of inquiry of, okay, does it feel okay to sit this way? Does it feel okay to soften the gaze? Can you handle that right now? Can you breathe deeper into that? And then where can you shift the mind that feels even better than that? So it's almost overcoming resistance or even inviting them to jump on the trail that they find and then encouraging them to keep going, keep going. Does that make
totally
sense?
Makes sense. And I'm hearing is that, and you as the teacher and the leader holding a safe place for that to happen, because constantly you're like, it's okay. We're not judging that you have to be in your yoga pants or on your yoga mat or on your pillow and that it has to look a certain way and you need complete silence. And I think part of the resistance of people getting into meditation is this thing that they think it is, where just dropping in for 5 minutes at the beginning of the podcast and even sounding so like happy and this is awesome, woo woo, let's have fun, versus this, sometimes drony music and lights have to be down. And I think, if we could normalize just when you're looking at a sunset, when you're petting your dog, when you're holding your kid, when I'm talking to my friend, and connecting and being present is also meditation. So I find that what you're talking about is defining it for yourself, and that the ability for them to keep on keeping on is they just have to feel safe doing it, just even if it was just 1 second longer or 1 minute longer. And I think that's a skill and gift that you have. So
it is. And I totally attribute it to energy work. I do a lot of practice in being able to identify not only my own energy and ground, anchor, clear, but also attune to the energy of the room. And that is always my intention as a group facilitator, to keep the space safe. And when you're working with a group of people that are not feeling too safe or self-regulated, it's a delicate balance that I also really respect the value of. It's not just me. It's a co-creation, and we're all here participating together. And each and every participant that shows up, I'm grateful they showed up. Super grateful they showed up. And I also encourage them to take responsibility for the fact they contribute to the energy of the room. And it's not about denying what we're really feeling. Sad, mad, angry. They have every right to show up. But you can also bring in gratitude, joy, forgiveness. So it's kind of playing with each person's little personal combination of what's happening in their life at that moment, and then helping them to find a match where they can all agree on. And that's what I tend to do with like check-ins I lead somatic integration. And it's an awareness practice where they check in with different areas of the body, and we talk about it a little bit, but it really anchors in feeling safe.
And what I thought was interesting was you were saying until it was no fun anymore, right? And I would imagine that would be this window where people can either look to healing or it's the next step of addiction. So it sounds like it's a very pivotal point. But then you also addressed on the rocking chair feeling. And then I kept hearing it's that feeling. So oftentimes trying to blunt the feeling. But what you were talking about was almost transmuting it into the next step of where that feeling can take you. Does that?
I agree. And I think that's a really very astute awareness, Rob. It also reminds me of a class that I've been leading this week that's been I try to do one topic a week, and you just hit it, where we've been talking about the feeling of relief that happens after we release something. And so playing with some of those nuances of what we can release physically through the tension in the shoulders, the fists, and then what do we need to release in our life so that we can access that feeling of relief.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Should we play, or do you have another question? And I can totally lead you through a little somatic integration experience.
Totally. Let's do it.
For those listening to, it doesn't take that long, again, to just become aware of the intelligence in your own energy. Because you know good vibes, bad vibes. And sometimes we just need to pay attention to, okay, where did I feel this in my body? And what information does that emotion or that little sensation offer me? Sometimes it can be a clue to something deeper that we want to explore. Sometimes it's literally a matter of just sighing it out, exhaling, letting it go without any narrative.
Awesome. Let's do it.
So, once again, make yourself comfortable. Get cozy. Rock a little. I move a lot, so I have many pillows to reorganize myself. But see where you can. Just sit yourself up in a way that feels comfortable, relaxed. And take a look around. Notice the distance between the walls, the ceiling, shade of light, the time of day. And then recognize the fact that being right here, right now is safe. I think we can agree upon that fact that our life is not in any immediate danger. And even though we're in different physical locations, we can agree that we don't want anything from each other that is not for the highest and best good. And sometimes in just validating the fact that for the next few moments, nobody wants anything from me. My only responsibility is to be here and breathe. And that even allows the shoulders to drop a little deeper, the chest to open a little broader. And feel that connection between you and your seat. Wiggle on into it and trust gravity to hold place. And take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. Take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. And just take a moment to notice where you're at right here, right now, in relation to when you first blinked your eyes open this morning. And so from the moment you blinked your eyes open, you have experienced a whole range of emotions. different thoughts, feelings. You've been filled with different information. Some of it has stuck. Some of it has just passed right through. But just like you have digested food, we digest information. Things come in, and some of them might still be hanging out, ready to be processed. And go ahead and just imagine something that happened earlier today that brought a smile to your face. And if you're not quite sure, you can bring that smile to your face now, maybe just thinking of the fact that you woke up in a cozy bed this morning. Or you have a beautiful day to enjoy the things that you choose. Think of something else that you're grateful for that happened last week. Maybe it was an event. Think of something that actually caused you to laugh out loud. And often when we think of these spontaneous little nuggets of joy, it's not the big things. It's the way someone looked at us when they didn't even realize that we were looking. How about a favorite song? A song that you've been listening to recently? Or a sound in nature? And now imagine something that's really stressing you out. Maybe there's something on your list that keeps getting carried over week after week after week. Maybe there is someone that you need to reply back to, and you're not quite sure what to say because you really don't want to. Maybe there's some unfinished business, like a little resentment, a little grudge, a little jealousy, a little anger. That's okay. Notice where you feel it in the body. And take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. And just become aware of those feelings. And can you notice some of those heavy feelings in the same way that you might notice the temperature of the air, a smell, a sound? And can you notice those sensations in the same way that you can shift your awareness back to something that you're grateful for? And once again, just imagine what recently brought a smile to your face. What was the best smell? Something that you recently have just inhaled with all you possibly could. Maybe you recently took a bite of something that made you pause, close your eyes, and just enjoy. And so we have the ability in our imagination to shift the chemistry in our body. You just did it. Good job. So let's bring it back to anchoring in what we are grateful for in this moment, right here, right now. Take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, release into the support below, feeling grounded, rooted, supported, and safe. Take a full breath in. Look around your space with gratitude. And exhale, release a little deeper, let go a little more. And even as you look around and you might start to judge what needs to be tidied up, or the to-do list comes rushing back, it's okay. We can continue to see all that we see, feel all that we feel, we just add something that feels a little bit softer to land on and a little bit more sturdy to anchor into. And so, okay, how did that feel for you? And what did you notice in your body? Where did you feel it?
I felt it a lot in my heart, just warm. It's interesting to get into the body and out of the mind, particularly when there's like so much going on. And that whole, what you're saying, soma meaning body, and this whole process of like getting into the body. Damn. It's like, and it is that why we do it, I suppose, is disassociate for a reason, right? And so, that was a great exercise to begin to touch back into there. So thank you for that. It's interesting. I talk about this with my patients. They're like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that, to get back in the body. And it doesn't always feel safe. And I hear you saying, it's okay. It's okay. You're okay. You're okay. Right?
Yeah. It's so important, because if we don't feel like it's a safe space for me to be in my body, I'm going to disassociate every opportunity I can. And it could say that's okay. It's a choice. Sometimes it's not a choice. But is it really a life worth living to constantly be checked out? I prefer to be aware of what's going on around me. What do I have the capacity to open myself up to, as well as discern the boundaries that keep my peace protected. And I think that's where it's skillful to just learn these tiny little tricks and tools that enable you to just do life.
And like you said, it does take practice. Nobody's going to do this, get it overnight. And just these practices, like you said, daily, and these refinements and, these modulations, these small things and discoveries that come up over time. So yeah, awesome. Beautiful. Can we talk about your writing? I'm so excited. I know that lights you up quite a bit too. So tell us more about your writing and how you got into that and how you use that with your clients.
So I work in therapeutic settings, teaching somatic integration yoga as well as writing. It started with just yoga because I was a yoga teacher while I was drunk. Not too good at that. And then when I got sober, I became a yoga therapist to really angle in where the benefits of yoga had enabled me to stay clean. When I started working in treatment centers with the yoga, I also found writing. And that just happened on a retreat. I started with a little writing salon, and I felt the same release from writing that I felt after a yoga practice. And that's what got me. I was like, whoa, something just came. That felt good. And so I just started studying more of the writing, not only for my own really deep cathartic journey of what is my story, but also being able to get curious about, is this my story? Is this the narrative that I've been regurgitating to 20 different therapists? Or was there something more to this? So the more I started writing for myself, the more I continued to just really feel into the parallels between somatic integration, working something through the body, and the writing, working through art in the power of the written word. I continued enjoying it, writing 3 manuscripts, yet to be published, but we are in the works. I became a certified Gateless Writing coach and teacher. And the Gateless methodology is genius in the way that it works with brain science. So how I was feeling that cathartic release after writing actually has to do with the fact that when we click into the right side of the brain, the creative, that is non-judgmental, that just allows ourselves to be expressive and have a voice, that fires up these little neural pathways that invite us to rest into our own creativity, which we all have. Often we're just tightened up in these little shells to conform and follow directions that might not be as appropriate for us. So the writing really is that invitation to talk to that little voice inside that was probably told to be quiet a long time ago. That's the voice I want to hear.
Definitely. So, it was inspired by you to write. And so I started with morning pages and then started writing to little K. And that was just so profound. And I think I had told you for a really long time, like, I'm not a writer. Well, it didn't really matter, but it was more of, again, you creating that atmosphere. It's like, fine, just write. And so that sort of free writing, because I wasn't writing to perform or anything or writing a academic paper or whatever. It is a very therapeutic activity process. And again, we don't necessarily have to formalize it in the beginning, right? It's just write or doodle or something. And then again, that encouragement of like, maybe even channeling that inner child or the little girl. I mean, she has a lot to say, like you said, that she didn't get to say, or the little boy that didn't get to say what they needed. And having that conversation, in fact, of just from your adult self to your little self, your child self, is really fascinating. And you think you're making this stuff up, but it's really this interesting conversation on a piece of paper. And when you step back and look at it, it's like, wow, this is so therapizing. This is so amazing. So
it's amazing. And that's where the power of the mind, maybe the imagination plays a role in a way that it works to our advantage. We can hijack where our mind goes, either into a loop of negative self-talk, and I can't, and I'm not, or we can go into, okay, I want to hear what that little girl had to say. Who told you not to? Who told you you can't? And it's the energy around where she leads you that's going to be the portal out. And I think that we hold ourselves back in going back to that left side of the brain and the logical, the, neocortex override can do such a disservice in holding us back or justifying where we can stay stuck. And the writing really encourages, or even creative expression, doodling. That's what I do with the kids. It's all about going into the imagination and the creativity. And that's a place where we're not used to playing very often. And so it takes some of that encouragement and also the nurturing to relax into the safety of being creative, of knowing that there is no wrong answer. And that in itself can be a little frightening.
Yeah. That's awesome. You're totally my inspiration for just writing. And so one thing I think is really cool too is just even asking questions, and having that mirror back whatever whatever is answering, what part of myself is answering, or higher being is answering. But it is such a beautiful practice of centering, of quiet and going internal, and then you have this tangible activity of actually writing in your journal or writing in a piece of paper, so.
Well, and that's something that I say a lot at the end of the group is just look at what you did. You had a blank piece of paper and you put letters into words into sentences that you thought made no sense at all. And then we really appreciated the art because you helped us connect dots that we wanted to figure out. And that's what's so powerful in a group too, especially in the fact that there's no judgment. There's no processing. When we write something and share it, we're not going to talk about the story. We pretend like each piece is fiction, and we hold up the skill, the qualities, the strengths, the descriptions that really spark the soul. And so by hearing that, by echoing that, that's what lifts up the space into being really safe and allows the creativity to just explode. I mean, it's so fun on like retreat or even in therapeutic settings where I see the same people that started and, I can't do this. I'm not going to share. I'm like, okay, cool. No worries. Maybe next week. And then by the end, it's just these pages of like a novel and you're dripping over every like description. And it's so fun to watch and just be part of that experience.
I think it's incredible to hear actually how you teach that and you lead that and what the process would be. Just me with myself, I have gotten lost with it and things come from a place where you don't know where they're coming from, and it's, you somehow crack, and it's like cracking into the, like that icy layer, right? And you're getting into that. So what you're saying you experience with this group and these people who seem locked, that's what it is. That's fascinating.
I think that's part of the process is normalizing it, where I treat each piece, I'm enthusiastic. I get excited. I do these little hand snaps and like, oh my God, but I really try to share that enthusiasm with each word, each piece, not out of being, forcing it. It's more of the fact that it's the process of creation. And I want someone that wrote 3 words for the first time in their life to be celebrated as much as the published author who just wrote a brilliant paragraph. And so the experience of falling in or having the moments, fantastic. Thank you for letting me witness that. However, what I didn't see between the little girl squirming in her chair, I don't know. So it's kind of like a very delicate way of playing with the divine. I don't know where these words come from. And I love that I don't know. I don't want to know. I can figure out about some of the brain science, some of the cadence of speech and ways to invite the imagination to play. But other than that, it's kind of like this sandbox where we all bring in a bunch of toys and have fun.
So I love what you just said there, the I don't know, because one thing I finally grasped many years into my life was being open to the mystery of it all, right? And we don't know. And, we can only connect the dots going back, but we can't do it forward. And when we try, it prevents us from that, which I think is fascinating. That's cool.
When I started writing a lot of my story, I was on a mission to figure out why I was so fucked up. I did not know. I had been through every therapist, everything, and I could not get it. And I wanted to just uncover that one rape when I was 3 years old that I could blame everything on. And the more I started writing into the mystery, the more I recognized the fact that it all weaves together. And that's the process that I needed to do to crack my code. I had the key to just go back into the past and look through all these different perspectives of first person, third person, different settings, different places. What would happen if I healed the inner child? Would I have gone that way or would I have gone that way? What would have happened if the benevolent benefactor would have, so there's different ways that I think the writing can also offer us these portals into mystery. And for me, it really gave me a confidence in the process where I'm not going to get to an answer, but I love asking questions. Do you find that in your writing too, that you just enjoy like being in those morning pages when you're not trying to actually have a deadline?
Absolutely. It's like, without being encumbered by the bookmarks of time or the bookends of time or anything like that. And that's what allows it to go that way. And it's, sometimes for me, it's getting into that is difficult, right? It's maybe just, but yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can all write together in Kentucky.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just about to say, like, what would be a prompt for somebody who just wanted to start writing, and you were just talking right now, and I came up with my next prompt, which you said, who would I be if I didn't have to do XYZ? Who would I be if I was attuned to like I needed to be as a kid? I would probably, yes, be different. And so I didn't think about, the question's awesome, right? But I didn't think about expanding on that. And now it's like, I don't know, let's get out a piece of paper and let the mind go, or let the soul go and figure that out. Because that to me is that divine play that you're talking about, because it didn't come from my brain of like, now I have to have a plan of what I would have looked like, in an outline with chapter headings. It's just like, ooh, that sounds like a rabbit hole that I want to kind of explore and see. And the non-attachment to that, I think, is where I hear you saying the magic is, and the mystery.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because when you ask for writing prompts, I have been compiling a little ebook that I'm calling Transformational Words that have some of the prompts, but it's not just a prompt, because I've been trained in the Gateless methodology, and it starts by getting into the body. We always shift from that left side into the right side. So we start with some anchoring practices that help us, just feel instead of think. And then from there, I go into each group or one-on-one with a couple ideas of where my little human agenda thinks I want to teach from. And then when I feel into the energy of the room or where the person in front of me is at, I can shift that appropriately. And that is a skill set that we have to adapt and then see where that might be landing in a place can lead and not get stuck in just not moving. There's nothing that you can not write about. It's just the act of putting pen to paper. That's the biggest hurdle. So I love that you're excited, Kay, about thinking of new prompts and, I could write about that, or I wanted to follow that. Write about what you want to write about and get curious, often putting it in just sensory experiences. If there's a particular incident or memory that keeps playing out, bring yourself back to the scene. What did you see, smell, hear, taste, temperature? What were you wearing? And when you drop yourself into the scene, then you'll be able to kind of color in the details of emotion and thought a little bit more.
So, yeah, that's so beautiful. I mean, I'm just listening to you getting all, immersed in the process, because in the way you speak to is very vibrant. So as a doctor and as a healer, and my job is to help guide people, toward that inner self. And now, as you're saying that, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I should journal. But now this is giving me this tool of, well, that's an interesting question and an interesting inquiry. So maybe begin to write it down and to write about it, not necessarily for anybody else's eyes or mind, and to see what comes up. Because people want that solid answer. And some, sometimes I don't know, or they don't know, but it would be an interesting.
Know. I mean, yeah, a different side of the brain when we put pen to paper than when we talk out loud. And as adults, when we talk out loud, it's already going through 5 layers of conditioning. So if we can break through that and just give ourselves permission to get out what has been buried way below even conscious awareness, it's fascinating.
Well, that sort of reminds me of what Marjorie said when she was on Podcast Rob. And I don't know if you've gotten a chance to meet with her yet, but she said, when you run in fear, you're running that left side of the brain, that analytical brain. You actually shut off your intuitive and your psychic ability, which is really interesting. And I knew that creativity was shut off, but to go into those higher realms of actually, of intuition and clear knowing, clear seeing, which is amazing. And then, most of us don't think that we have those abilities, or they're saved for just, other kinds of people. I'm seeing now that getting those kinds of knowings and answers from a different place, and a different perspective, if you will, it's a really great way to start doing that and tapping into that.
Yeah, I mean, we're all intuitive. Again, it's just the conditioning that
totally
from accessing it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having to play a professional role in a world that demands us not to use our intuition. However, what if we were allowed to use the intuition? Where would that lead us? For me, it creates a much more enjoyable environment to be around. I love when the people in my space are also using their intuition. They can pick up on something, and it's fantastic. And again, that's why I like to start everything with just a moment to anchor in. Because when we can feel just grounded, safe, validated for just a moment, that's how we can even attempt to get past the loop in the left brain.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So anything else that you'd like to share with us? Any future retreats, workshops?
Yeah, what I was just talking about. I'm doing a somatic leadership and energetic intelligence training. And so it talks a lot about that, because as doctors, physicians, pharmacists, therapists, a lot of the professionals that I work with are so skilled in what you do. I mean, you have an incredible education and experience. There are little things that I have been able to master in my wheelhouse that complement very well in the way of just grounding, breath work, creativity. And so it's giving a toolkit to practitioners that they can adapt in their own space with their own people. And that's going to be in Newport Beach, September 7th and 8th. If you want to come, I would love to have you. So that's going to be really fun. There's more information on my website. I'm also doing an energetics of yoga teacher training in Costa Rica. And so that's going through each chakra, the 7 main chakras, and how we can use the energy channels with the yoga asana and pranayama breath work to shift and change, transform, and grow for the rest of our lives. So it's a really embodied wisdom that's, yes, equips us to teach in studio settings and helps you understand more about your own body, and physically and energetically.
Wow. Amazing. And our upcoming retreat, your upcoming retreat in Kentucky.
Yeah, super excited about that. So relax and rewild. And I love that title because I think retreats are all about relaxation. Anytime we can just pause our day-to-day life and go in a space where we are completely taken care of, we don't have to make any decisions, and we are going through the motions of clean food, functional movement, open space, nature, meaningful conversations. It's a way to get in touch with our soul. And not only on a personal level, but when you do that with other people that might have been strangers and you just start to get to know one another on that soul level, it's really powerful. And so even just a little weekend, it's going to be amazing. And I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. I'm so excited for that. Rob, did you have any last questions to ask?
I didn't. It's amazing, though. I just love the conversation. And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. How can we get in touch with you? How can we see you on social media or contact you about retreat?
Alysa Osvog on the planet. And I have a feeling I will be.
Of course.
So it's just my name. Alysa Osvog. And it's interesting, Kay, because you've known me long enough to know I never used to use my name. I was very into just Project 11. Project 11's the name of my business. But I've gotten to the point that it took me a while to recognize that I'm not afraid. I don't have to please or perform, and people might not like me, and that's okay. I'm still going to just show up and do the best I can with what I have. And this is my name, Alysa. I have a lot of fun things to share, and I hope you join me.
Yay. Thank you so much.
I love it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Soul of Medicine podcast, where science meets soul for whole health healing. Are you ready to reclaim your energy, vitality, and soul purpose? Then feel free to head to our website at kcorpusmd.com and schedule an appointment for your root cause review.